So it's fair to say that one of the things that attracted me to this guitar was the tailpiece. I think it's absolutely wonderful, particularly with this brass nameplate on it, and that brass nameplate actually helps date this as one of the earlier instruments. So I need one of these, don't I, for my Nava tone. I guess the sensible option would be to find a similar kind of tailpiece, maybe made by Cluson or whatever that you see on an archtop guitar, something like that. But if you've watched my videos in the past, you know that I don't always take the sensible option. So what I think I'm going to do is my absolute best to make something very similar to this. And I'm going to start that process with a sheet of nickel silver. So there's the nickel silver plate cut out. The next job is to bend it, but before you actually bend it, the metal needs to be annealed, and that's a process where you heat it up until it's red hot and then let it cool down naturally, and that softens it hopefully enough to bend it. And depending on how easy or difficult it is to bend, that annealing process may need to be done a number of times. So I've made up this kind of little clamp or vise for bending my tailpieces. So it's a couple of blocks of aluminium, and the idea being that the aluminium is softer than whatever I'm trying to bend, so it doesn't really mark it. So that goes into my woodwork vise, and then hey presto, we bend it. Right, with that kind of bent to the angle that I want, I'm going to anneal it again so that I can kind of just true it up, get any bends out of it, that kind of thing. So when you look at the original Guyatone tailpiece, it's folded back on itself to form this kind of U, and the ball ends of the strings are anchored within that U. So what I'm going to do then, I've got my piece of nickel silver, my plate that I've been making up, and I bought this brass U section which has been milled, so it's a very really nice accurate piece of metal. And what I've done is I've cut a number of slots in here, 6 in fact, to take the ball ends of the strings. So the ball ends will go into the slots like that, and that will anchor them in place. So what I need to do now is to silver solder this onto the underside of my nickel silver plate, and that will form my tailpiece. So the tailpiece has been attached to my test rig. Set of strings taken up to tension, and really all I wanted to do is see how the tailpiece behaves, and it's behaved itself. So on to the next step. So the next step with the tailpiece is to make the nameplate which goes on there. Now I'm going to write obviously Nava on it, and I'm going to use the same sort of script that I use on the labels which go in my acoustic instruments, and I'm going to do that by etching. So what I've got here is a piece of brass, and all of that exposed brass that you can see will be eaten away by some ferric chloride, and what's underneath the blue ink here, the blue etch resist ink, that will be protected. So that should give me a similar sort of relief as on the original Guyatone badge, which I think has probably been cast. Right, so the ferric chloride's in there, and in goes my brass. So that's going to be left in there for about 45 minutes. Obviously I'll check it as we go along, and every now and then just agitate it a little bit. So we've had about 45-50 minutes in there now, so let's take it out and see what we see. So hopefully under there is the nameplate. Rinse off ferric chloride, and actually that's looking quite good. So what I'm going to do now is clean up that plate with some pumice powder. So I think that is looking pretty good. So what I've got to do now is cut the shape out, and hopefully we'll have our nameplate. So there we go. There is the finished nameplate, ready to be fixed onto the tailpiece itself. So as the tailpiece is made from nickel silver, I figured if I can polish it, get it shiny enough, it will look as though it's nickel plated. So what I've stumbled across was a conversion kit for my bench grinder, which turns it from a bench grinder into a polisher buffer. So it comes with a couple of these mandrels or spindles, 3 polishing mops, and a couple of different grades of polishing compound. So really pleased that I stumbled across that. And it's been a very worthwhile investment because it's actually getting really shiny. So I shall continue with this, and I'll show you the results in a minute. Okay, so after a few hours on that buffing wheel, we've got one lovely, super shiny tailpiece, and I must admit I'm really pleased with the way that this has come out. I've fixed on the nameplate, that's attached with a couple of machine screws, just as on the original Guyatone. So yeah, next step, put it on the guitar. Well, there we are. The tailpiece has now been fitted. It's fixed down with slotted head screws, which when you look at this sort of guitar, they're period correct. So it's all looking really rather lovely. I'm not quite finished with my adventures in the world of metalwork because I've got the bridge to make, but we can look at that in the next video, can't we? Anyway, until then, you take care. Thanks for watching the video, and yeah, see you soon. Cheers.